Christophe de Margerie, the chief executive of Total, died in a plane crash in a Moscow airport last night. He was in Moscow for his annual meeting with the Russian Prime Minister. I'm here with Guy Chazan to speak to him about the importance and influence that Christophe de Margerie had in the industry and in the wider world. He was a larger-than-life character, Guy. What was it about him that attracted people so much?
There was something incredibly charismatic about it. I attended many oil conferences around the world where he would speak, and he always spoke to capacity crowds. Everyone would cram into the room to hear his speech because it was always the most interesting, the most iconoclastic and controversial speech in the whole conference. He was never scared of expressing his views, and often his views were quite contrarian. They were very different to the consensus in the industry. For example, he always had a very strong idea that global supply of oil would never meet demand. He thought that supply would kind of peak at 100 million barrels a day, which was quite controversial at the time. And later it proved to be wrong, because in fact shale oil sort of flooded into the market, and that has completely changed the supply picture. So sometimes he was wrong, but sometimes he was right, and always his opinions were worth listening to.
And yet he also took quite controversial positions on countries facing sanctions. Earlier this year in July, I was lucky enough to actually speak to Christophe de Margerie about his position on Russia.
I mean, it's not the first time there's a crisis between Europe and Russia. It's not the first time there are crises among even European countries. So it's life, and Total, we know that we have to accept that sometimes in the 130 countries in which we operate in the world, that there will be always a problem in one of those countries.
So, Guy, how much of a problem was this that Total took such a controversial position on countries facing sanctions?
Well, I think it was very annoying to a lot of European governments, because obviously, you know, they were backing these sanctions, and here was a major industrial figure basically coming out and saying, this is not a good idea, we shouldn't be isolating these countries. He said the same thing about Iran in the old days as well. He was very much of the view that you should integrate these countries into the economy, into the global political order, and not isolate them. With Russia, obviously, he was talking his book because Total has very big investments there. It has this huge liquefied natural gas venture with Novatek, the gas producer in Yamal, which is in the far north of Russia. So obviously, if that investment is imperiled by sanctions, that's a big headache for Total.
And to be fair, I don't think he ever made a secret of that. He always said that he was really only pursuing Total's interest. He wasn't playing politics.
Absolutely.
If we look at the company itself, how did he change the company compared to his predecessor, Thierry Desmarais?
Well, Desmarais sort of created the modern day Total in the sense that he did these huge mergers and acquisitions which built Total into the sort of company we know now, the fourth largest oil company in the world. But de Margerie diversified Total geographically, because at the time when he became CEO, it was very concentrated on West Africa and the North Sea and a little bit in Asia. He ventured into new areas. He ventured into Russia, for example. He went into the Canadian oil sands. He really pushed the boundaries for Total and sort of spread their geographical footprint in a way that predecessors couldn't even have imagined.
So where does this leave Total now without such a charismatic figure at the helm?
Well, I think Total is in good shape. It's pursuing a very bold strategy of growth, and it's quite far along that path already. So the chances are that his successor will be able to continue with that strategy that de Margerie has effectively put in place.
Thank you very much, Guy, for talking to us about this. And if you want to read any more, please go to ft.com.